And I'd like to welcome along our viewers to the TCR SPA 500. Night practice, 2 hours of practice here at the beautiful, majestic Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium. Typical Spa weather is what we have for you tonight. And if the circuit wasn't challenging enough, just add water, is the saying. And that's certainly what we've got in store for you. So we've got a 2-hour practice session where we're going to see all of our drivers cycling through their respective cars. My name is Joe Bradley. Alongside me is Paul Truswell. And down in the pits, we have Dinah Binks, who we'll be going to very shortly. And a 2-hour session where we will be getting on with things, getting a feel for just what this event is about. It's the inaugural running of the TCR SPA 500. Already plans to run this event again. We've got a 17-car field, and we have certainly got quality and some of the driver lineups. We've got TCR teams and drivers from pretty much a global sphere. Asian series, European series, we've pretty much got a team representing everywhere in the world. Even Australia is represented. With the rain coming down and darkness descending, it's gotten dark a little bit earlier, but that's down to the very low cloud cover that we've got. And with a very wet track indeed, it's not going to be very tactical with regards to tyres. We are going to give our drivers a taste of what's to come with regards to the weekend. The weather forecast for the inaugural running, the 500 lap race. Now, we're probably not going to get to the 500 lap mark, as it's 500 laps or 23 hours, whichever comes the soonest, and we'll be going more into that when we speak to Paul in a moment. But just getting towards heading down to the pits to speak with Dinah Binks. Diana?
Hello, Joe. I'm here in the pit lane. I'm not sure we have any pictures at the moment, or we may do. I can see, yes, I can see the camera at the end of the pit lane. So I'm just walking down to the pit in area.
Ah, there you are.
The other end.
I'm really feeling for you down there, Binksy. It's bobble hat weather, isn't it?
It is. I can't quite get the bobble hat on at the minute underneath the hood that I've got in my jacket, just to keep out of the rain. But as you can see the visual images now, for anyone that can't see them, well, the pit lane's pretty empty. The cars are taking them time to come out. And as I say that, the number 65 just makes that way out onto the track. The Red Camel 101 that you were talking about earlier, they're getting ready inside the garage to head out. But they're taking it quite slowly this evening, as the session has just got underway. The temperature's dropped a few degrees since earlier on today, so we're probably about 9 degrees now, but the rain is here again. It's drizzling, it's getting heavier, not so windy, but it's still a lot cooler, so clearly wets on all of these cars, but no real rush to get out onto the track and into that practice session at the minute.
Thank you, Di, and I notice you have your padded coat on there. Let's welcome Paul Truswell back. Paul, I mentioned it's a 500 lap event. It's called the TCR SPA 500 for that reason. However, the likelihood of us getting to 500 laps is quite remote, you were saying.
I think you've got a better chance of winning the lottery, to be honest, Joe. Going back to our conversation from last night, and we agreed that wasn't a very high chance. So, no, we're going to run to 23 hours. Interesting, picking up on what Di was saying there. The fact that the wind has dropped is actually probably bad news, because if there was a chance of the rain being blown away, then that means we're probably in for a wet session throughout. But in a way, that's good. The teams, the clever ones, will be learning despite that to try and find out the best way to deal with the wet conditions. Wet tyres, I was talking to someone earlier on who was suggesting that if it stays really wet and if it's cold, then the wet weather tyres will probably last 2 stints, i.e. they'll go for the whole of a tank full of fuel and then another tank full of fuel without having to change the tyres. Now that's critical, because when you're in the race, time spent changing tyres is lost time. And even if you can do that in 15, 20, 25 seconds, that's 15, 25 seconds that if you can leave the same tyres on, you're going to save.
And also, what we talked about earlier, Paul, was the ability of your star drivers to be able to drive the car, which would be effectively, I call it being on the wrong tyres for the conditions. But with the changeable forecast that we've got for this weekend, there's a very strong likelihood we're going to see wet tracks going to dry, back to wet. And, you know, you're not going to risk risking a pit stop. As you said, it's a really long pit lane here, and you're going to lose a lot of time just driving in and out of the pits, let alone changing the tyres.
Yeah.
So you want to try and avoid that. I think there are going to be opportunities here for a kind of like a dark horse coming through to the fore just by being on the right tyres at the right time.
It depends on what the conditions are. The forecast for tomorrow is actually not too bad, at least forecast that I saw, not too bad. So for qualifying and the start of the race, fingers crossed it will be dry, but then there is rain forecast to sweep across the area on Sunday, and therefore will make things very unpleasant towards the end of the race. But we'll see how it all pans out. The green flag has been shown. The session is underway. As Joe said a moment ago, it's a 2-hour night practice session. Although it is going dark, peering out of our commentary box windows, it is actually darker out there than the screen would have you believe. The screen currently showing us the view from inside the 308. No prizes for guessing. That's a Peugeot 308. It's in the hands of Aurélien Comte, the French driver. He's one of only 3 drivers in that car. In fact, it's the only car in the field, as far as I can see, that doesn't have an AM driver at the wheel of it. It's got 2 pros and a semi-pro. So overlook that car at your peril, the 308 Peugeot.
It's very, very murky conditions there, as we can see on the live stream. Remember, we are live in sound and vision right the way through to the end of this night session. Let's head down to the pits, though, and Big Z, problems for one of our runners already.
Yes, the number 54, John Miller, is here. I was just having a quick chat with John, actually, while you threw down to me. There's obviously making some adjustments there. Is it the battery or the alternator, or what's the situation?
Yeah, we had some issues. The car was kind of throwing some alarms in the final laps of the final practice, and so we think it's electrical related. So, you know, we didn't have a whole lot of time to address it between the 2 practice sessions, so we're changing the battery, changing the alternator, putting the auxiliary lights for night practice back on, just buttoning a few things back up. You know, the changing conditions have made it really difficult to get a handle on things here. Most of us have been here before, but as a new group kind of coming together, the 4 of us together, new team, new group, we're all just kind of getting going. And so hopefully night practice will run a little bit smoother than practice did earlier today.
Well, the 54 Ferda Autosport car is, it looks like the team here are sort of quite relaxed, although they're busy working away. The session's just got underway, so it seems like everyone's not rushing to get straight out onto the track.
No, just a few more things to button up, and then we'll be out there turning our laps. Like I said, you know, myself, I've raced here before in the night and in the rain, so it's just kind of about cycling everybody through, all of our drivers, getting some laps. We basically just spent a little bit of time this afternoon getting all the creature comforts and driver changing logistics together to make sure that when it goes green tomorrow, we're ready to rock and roll.
So many of our viewers that are new, that are just joining us, and they hear us talking about these nighttime driving at Spa. What can they expect, or what do you expect as a driver?
I expect the unexpected. You know, especially with the changing weather conditions. Last time I raced here last year, the 12-hour race, we got extremely lucky. It was dry the whole time. So we've been learning pretty much every lap as we go. The conditions have been dry to wet to slightly dry to slightly wet. You know, with 4 drivers and not a ton of practice time, we don't really even have much apples to apples data to compare to. And normally we do a lot of coaching between the drivers to help get us all up to speed, compare notes, talk about our thoughts on the car, on the setup. But this weekend it's been a little bit just kind of take it as it comes, and we're doing fine. We'll be.
Well, you seem very relaxed.
Yeah, we're at Spa, we're racing. It's going to be awesome. Yeah.
I'll let you carry on and chat to the guys here at the team as we venture back outside. I'm afraid the weather's not very good outside of your garage, even though you've got the door halfway down.
Exactly. Cheers. Thank you.
I think that's indeed why they have the garage door halfway down. It really is it's the sort of night, Paul, where you wouldn't venture to the shops for a pint of milk if you've run out, let alone think about driving around a racetrack such as Spa. It's appalling weather, and visibility is going to become a factor. Low cloud cover causing this very light drizzly rain, and I would imagine hang on, we're going to pop back down to Di. Go ahead.
Just to let you know that the rain is picking up. It's throwing it down quite hard now, certainly here in the pit lane. So, as you just said, a lot of the garages still have their doors down, clearly not to let the rain run into the garages, but it is definitely getting heavier.
Well, I don't know if that's good news or bad news. We like consistent track conditions, but positioned where we are, Paul, right on the start-finish straight, just before the braking area for La Source, there is quite a bit of spray coming up from the cars, indicating to me that we've got quite a bit of surface water here.
Yes, and yellow flags up at Les Combes I spotted there as well, as somebody got it wrong, but I think got going again. No sooner was the yellow flag out than was withdrawn again. So, yeah, it is fairly horrible conditions. And, of course, the danger is, as you were saying, or you were about to say, that it's not just the rain, but low cloud, which then starts to affect visibility. And that's when it becomes, yes, very unpleasant to be out in it, but also it can get quite dangerous. Again, talking to people around the paddock, the expectation is that people are going to be erring on the side of caution rather than throwing caution to the winds, especially in this night practice session. There's nothing to be gained and everything to be lost. You know, you don't need to be a hero in these conditions. You just need to go out, do your laps, and then bring the car back in again. Come the race again, because we've got relatively few entries, there's an awful lot to be lost, you know, and by staying out there and being a little bit cautious, being there at the finish, you could quite easily inherit a podium.
On a race such as this length, it's going to be 23 hours like we estimate, with such a small field of 17 cars. I know you've said it only takes 2 cars to make a race, but it doesn't matter what issues befall your car, it's going to be worth addressing those issues and getting back out. You're going to have a good race finish.
Absolutely. So the point being that because people are going to be a little bit cautious, because there aren't that many cars out there, we might actually get away without very many Code 60s. You know, we don't have the closing speeds between the cars that we do in regular Creventic races, where there are GT cars, TC division cars, even A3 class cars, and we don't have any of that. So all the cars are, I won't say identical, but they are all to the same specification, the TCR specification. And as I say, that means that we don't have as much lapping to be done. And so hopefully we'll have a race that doesn't have too much Code 60 in it. Lap times at the moment hovering over 3 minutes. 3 minutes 10 is the fastest that we've seen thus far. That's for the number 65 Cupra, the all-Malaysian team, and it's currently Melvin Moe at the wheel of the number 65 Viper Nisa Racing Cupra. And the fact that it does have an all-Malaysia driving crew reminds me that we have to talk as well about the Nations Trophy, because in the best way of a Creventic race, there's lots of different trophies. But the most impressive trophy, Joe, I think you've seen a photograph of it, is this Nations Trophy, a massive affair. And you'll see, I don't know if they've actually fitted them yet, but those cars that have a driver lineup, all of one nation, will be eligible for the Nations Trophy. And so, as I say, look out for particularly that Malaysian car with its team of Malaysian drivers, and say they will carry a Malaysian flag on the roof, so we'll be able to tell who's in the Nations Trophy and who isn't.
We've got 2 cars, Paul, that have got a full Hong Kong driver lineup. That's the number 852 Teamwork Huff Motorsport Audi, and we've got the Macau PS Racing, which has a driver lineup all coming from Macau. The 308 Peugeot, that's an all-French driver lineup, and then we've got the NKPP Racing with Bas Koot and Cupra, car 175. That's a full Dutch driver lineup.
Double Dutch. Double Dutch. Yeah.
I just quickly looking down the order. We've got a Swedish car, the Lestrup Racing, car 110. That's representing Sweden. And we've got, I thought we had an American car, but I can't find it. You mentioned Malaysia, didn't you?
Yeah.
We have got a USA car. And
that's the QSR car that we were just hearing from Diana from.
Yeah.
So yes, there is
Belgium.
Plenty of interest in the Nations Trophy.
Absolutely, you've got it all to go for.
That's something to keep an eye on. Melvin Mogo's quicker again, so he's. They do get some rain in Malaysia, and Melvin quite happy out there, pushing on quite hard. He's gone down now to a 3 minutes 4.990. That's just over 2 seconds faster than Pepe Oriola has gone in the 101 Red Camel Jordans.nl car, the as ever orange Cupra that Evo and Rick Breukers will be driving. But as I say, Pepe Oriola, former runner-up in the European Touring Car Championship, has been drafted into the team for this weekend. And as I say, he looking forward. I spoke to him earlier today, and he's looking forward to having his outing behind the wheel. He's second fastest. He's done a 3 minutes 7.085. Times from the free practice session earlier today, the fastest time we had there, although this was not a fully dry lap either. 2 minutes 46 was the fastest lap, and that was Pepe Oriola who set that time in the number 101 Red Camel car, and 2 minutes 46.332 was the fastest time from a damp free practice session earlier today.
Well, it's a 2-hour session, just to remind everybody, and like we've already mentioned, the teams are obligated to have all of their drivers do at least 2 laps. That is a way that we acclimatise the drivers to the conditions, and they get used to driving the cars in the dark. And you mentioned Pep Oriola really pushing on. He's chasing down that fastest time. He has indeed gone quicker, Paul. 3 minutes and 4 seconds, 3 minutes 4.491. He's actually gone quicker by literally 1,000th of a second by the looks of things. 3 or 4.990, 491, sorry. Just under half a second, yes. The quicker than Melvin Moore. So Pepe Oriola showing very, very much that he's pushing on, losing the back end of the car there out on the circuit. But getting back to the obligation of the night, 2 hours running in the dark, the teams will use the 2 hours to adjust their lighting. It's all about getting the lights to work, and you'll see on some of the cars they've got headlights pointing up over, well pointed out by Lanzarote Camel. Thanks for that. Pointing up over into the sky. That comes into use at Eau Rouge when you're looking for that apex at Radeon. Let's head down to the pits, though. Di's got something for us.
Thermoworks Motorsport, the number 33 Cupra TCR. Constantine Trolls just jumped out of the car. You've been out doing a few laps at the beginning of this session. What are conditions like on the track?
Yeah, it's still very wet. And we just did a first run to check how the car is, how it behaves. I haven't done a full fast lap yet. I've just done some intro laps. I'm happy with the car, but it's still very wet outside. It started raining even heavier now. So let's see what the session brings. It's 2 hours long. I will have some more laps later this session. Due to the clouds, it's already very dark, even though it's still early.
Yeah, we noticed that earlier. It seemed to be darker, quicker than normal here, which when it is dark is very, very dark. So important for all of you drivers to get your laps in this evening. Just get comfortable.
Yeah, everybody needs to run 1 lap at least. And yeah, I've done mine. Later on the session, we'll have some more drive time. Let's see how the car is afterwards.
How much more physical is it during a night stint like this behind the wheel?
Actually, the lights are already very good on the cars, so it's not very different. Also, the light system on the track is quite okay, so you just see quite a lot, but you have to concentrate a bit more. so the night race, so the night time of this race will be quite demanding.
So is it important for you now to come in and talk to the engineer and to your teammates just to give them a bit of feedback of what the track's like?
Oh, it's the same as usual, but due to the 5 drivers, we don't have a lot of drive time, so you need to conclude your feelings in shorter time. You need to have the feeling of the car, not in 5 laps, but in 2 or 3.
You feeling good?
I'm feeling very good, confident for the race tomorrow.
Brilliant. Well, no doubt we'll chat to you over the weekend. Thanks for the moment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Di. And it's all about reacclimatizing yourself with the track conditions in the dark. It's a completely different track. You might be thinking, you know, what's the big deal about needing practice in the dark? And we're finding out with a massive, massive slide there, getting the rear end of the number 852, that's the Teamwork of Motorsport, down at, I'm not really sure where that is, Paul, where he lost the back end, but in true front-wheel drives, I think that was at Stavolo. Total broadside, completely 90 degrees to his direction of travel, and I'm not sure who's in the number 852. Let's have a look.
Alex
It's Alex Hu, and he just planted the throttle and the front-wheel drive, just dragged him out of it. That's the technique. Obviously, a little bit tricky to get your head round if you normally drive rear-wheel drive, but great control there.
Yes, great recovery, having lost control, I think.
Yes.
Thanks very much to Diana there. It was Konstantin Scholl we were hearing from, in case you kind of caught it halfway through. I did introduce him, but Konstantin Scholl from the Wimmerwerk Motorsports car, number 33. This is another potential entrant for the Nations Cup. We await official list of who's going to be in the Nations Cup, but the Wimmerwerk Motorsport team, a regular in the TCR Italia series, but full of Austrian drivers. Konstantin, they're one of 5 Austrian drivers, as he was saying to Diana. They have to get through all of their drivers in this 2-hour session, but Konstantin's done his bit and did a best lap of 3 minutes 14.756. Is currently 9th fastest overall, and Peter Gross is now in the car.
Just to give our listeners and viewers a chance to engage, you can tweet us any of your inquiries, questions or otherwise, at RSL_studio. Will get to us. I am at Bradders3078. At Paul Truswell is Trussers, and at Binksy DB is Binksy. Please fire away and ask us whatever you like. We may not have the answer, but I'm sure there's someone in the world will have. And welcome along to GM Lippmann, who's, I would imagine you're back in the UK. You never know with GM, though. He could be on holiday. But he's made an observation, Paul, that Oriola is driving that 101 Cupra with the window down. And he's got a bit of experience in these TCR cars as GM. He's competes with us and many times, just been to the Barcelona 24 hours a couple of weeks ago where you were, but he's telling me that in these conditions the water is just drawn into the car, then if you put the window up it then acts like a sauna and causes condensation and it becomes really, really difficult to drive.
Yeah, if you can see the onboard shots we had from Oriola's car there, you can see how the screen demisting is actually very efficient indeed, and very often windscreens mist up and make life very difficult indeed for drivers in these conditions. And again, that can be as a result of having the window open. What they do have to ensure is that the windows are closed whilst the car is in refueling, because that's one of the regulations. Oriola, talking of him, has now gone under the 3-minute mark. He's the first driver to do so, which I don't really think that suggests that the conditions are getting any better. I think it's merely that Oriola is getting used to them. 2 minutes 59.325 is very nearly now 4 seconds quicker than anybody else has gone. But anybody else is Teddy Claret in the DG Sport competition Peugeot. And I think that's a bit of a dark horse car. We tend to overlook Peugeots in TCR, but that 308 car is a very serious entry indeed. And Terry Claret doing a good lap time there, 2nd fastest.
So Diana is down in the pits, and I can see, Diana, that you're around the number 2 Holmgard Motorsport Volkswagen Golf.
I am.
They're changing brake discs. I would imagine that's just bedding things in.
Yes, it is. There doesn't seem to be any frantic activity here down by the garage, as you can see probably from the pictures now that that's what they're doing. There isn't anyone here that I can have a chat with, but as I say, they're quietly going about their business, and they're just putting the wheels back on there now. So I can see that the one side of the car on the left-hand side, that seems to be well, there's a bit of a hold up there. I'm not sure what it is. Yep, they've dropped the car down. They're just putting the wheels back on. So they, despite the fact that they've not moved the trays and the brake discs, the other brake discs and pads out of the way yet, is not stopping them. So the lollipop man's lifted, and off that car goes back out on track. But that looked like a normal stop and change, Joe, as opposed to any problems there.
Yeah, what we've got there is we've got basically the teams just putting discs on the car to bed them in preparation for their race weekend. You can't put a brand new set of pads and discs. You've got to match the pads to the discs, and basically that's wearing the pads into the brake disc. They'll be then put away onto a shelf, ready to be used in the race, and we'll see. Hang on, Di, go ahead.
I said once they've cooled down, they'll be moving them off. I'm just standing right next to them. I'm not sure if you can see, but the heat is actually quite nice because it is quite cold.
Everybody's crowding around the disc just for warmth.
Yes.
But might be interesting, actually, Di. I don't know if anybody will tell you. Find out from somebody in a team whether or how often they're intending to change the brake disc and pad assembly during the race. Whether they're going to be able to do the whole race on one set of discs and pads.
We're just about to find out the answer to that question, Paul. I wanted to ask you a question about the brake discs and pads. I don't know your name, so you're going to have to tell me who you are.
Come again.
Hold 1 second, he's chatting to the driver.
Come again.
Just remind me of your name, sorry.
It's Kim.
Kim, we were just talking about the changing. I guess you're bedding in the brake discs and pads for the moment to ahead of the race. How often do you think you're going to have to change them during the race?
One time. We will change one time. We are bedding in one set now. We started with one set, now we're bedding in a new. So we have 2 sets ready for the race. So when Jonas here is finished, we'll put on the first set again, so we have 2 new sets for the racing.
And that was all part of your tactical plan right at the beginning for this evening?
Yeah. Everything is running perfect after the plan.
Apart from the weather, of course, but then that's never perfect, is it?
Exactly, yes. Well, we like the weather. We come from Denmark, and rain in Denmark is more normal than sunshine, so rain is good for our team. It's good for our racing.
A bit like Scotland. I'm from Scotland. It's the same sort of thing. Let me ask you about the team here, Holmgaard Motorsport. There seems like a good crew. They all seem to be gelling and getting on well. Is there a good atmosphere in this team, and why would that be important for you?
There is a very good atmosphere. I think it's because, well, it's my team. I have my 2 sons, and all the mechanics is their friends. So we have their friends as mechanic, and my wife is making the food. So it's all, and we also meet in the spare time. It's not only in racing weekends we meet. We meet also at home and having fun.
And that's a great environment to be in, because obviously you all know each other quite well. You enjoy being around each other, so that whole team environment gets better and better.
Yes, exactly. And I have time to spend with my kids. They have to be here. I have to be here, because if they won't allow me to be here, there won't be any new tires.
Well, they better behave themselves then.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Okay, for the moment, thanks. We'll chat to you over the weekend.
I see you tonight over a pot of wine at the hotel.
A bottle of wine, did you say?
1 glass.
One glass, apparently.
Yes, they're at the same.
I'll be there.
They're at the same hotel as us, Di, so you need to hold him on that one.
You just said, yeah.
Yeah, he's getting the beers in.
Oh, that's really. I mean, it was interesting because I looked into the garage earlier, and I could see, when you go up and down the pit lane, you can see the atmosphere in some garages, and there was a definite bonding atmosphere here. They've got a great garage. They're all working, going about their business. They all know what they need to do, but they're all pushing each other on as well. So, the competition elements here. But it's a great way to spend your weekend, surely.
Yeah, that setup actually, for me, it epitomises what Creventic's racing organisations are about, the kind of series. The Holmgaard Motorsport, no strangers to 24H series racing, of course, this being the inaugural SPA 500, but they are a familiar sight to the Creventic pit lanes that we cover, and it's great. That just epitomises what I feel is preventing us all around. That, you know, the team dynamic there, just a bunch of family and friends going about their motorsport and enjoying every minute, and everybody just piling in there and enjoying what they're doing. Just to make a point, these cars run on steel brake discs. The Volkswagen GT that we saw having their brake discs bedded in there, that's a 6-pod caliper on a steel disc. I think all of the cars run on 6-pod calipers, apart from the Opel Astra, which runs on a 4-pod caliper. I know this is geeky information that I'm passing, but then again, I am a geek, and there'll be a lot of people out there who want to know that sort of thing. So steel brakes on these cars, and interesting to hear there, Paul, that they expect only to need a fresh set of brake discs and pads once. I would think the wet weather helps that a lot.
Well, that's kind of why I set Di up with that question to ask, because I didn't want to. I wanted her to find out from one of the teams, and Kim Homegaard, the man with his name above the door, as it were, on the Homegaard Motorsport team, is the man to tell us. So two sets of pads. Now, the question that we then have to ask is, how much flexibility do they have to do that change, say, after 6 hours of the race, 7 hours of the race? How long can they go on that set of discs before they have to do the change?
Yeah.
Do you have to split, do you need your maximum, is it about 13 hours? In which case you could come in at 11, or, how much flexibility is in there? And that's the kind of thing that enables teams to change the strategy, because obviously if you can do that disc and pad change whilst there's a code 60, that will cost you considerably less time than if you do it when the circuit's green, even though with wet weather, then you're going more slowly anyway. But all of that kind of things to bear in mind. And good to hear from Kim Homegaard there. There was, I was just trying to find it, but it seems to have gone. On the TCR SPA 500 website, there was a very interesting article with Kim and Homegaard's approach to this TCR SPA 500 race. As he says, it really is a family operation run by a group of people who are clearly friends and who really do enjoy their motorsport.
Great to see that kind of operation as our live stream showing one of our many in-car cameras. We've got 6 in-car cameras. The one that is currently to view on the live stream at the moment is in-car with Pepe Oriola. He's on his outlap and no sign of the conditions improving whatsoever. The track still very, very wet indeed. And we've got in-car cameras available on the live stream. The number 65 Viper Nizza racing car, that's the Cupra entry. The Further Autosport by QSR Racing, car 54. We were talking earlier to John Miller about that number 54 car, just having a few tweaks and adjustments and repairs made to that car. The number 308, that's the DG Sport Competition Peugeot 308. And then we've got a camera in the number 85 VMAX Engineering entry, number 853, the Macau PS Racing, and the car that we were just talking about, the 101 Red Camel Jordan's car. So in-car footage, certainly more information on that as we get into the race on Saturday. But for now, let's head back down to the pits, where that's where all the action is in a session like that. Diana.
About the other end of the pit lane now with DGA Motorsport. Christian Japsen is the team principal here. The Peugeot's in the garage. Is there anything to worry about?
Yes, but we are ready to fight this weekend. You know that our team is close to Spa-Francorchamps, and we are really enthusiastic for this race.
The garage and setup here looks fantastic. The team are working they're very slick in the garage. What are you doing to the car now? Are you just working through your setup?
Yes, we are looking to have a good setup for the endurance. It is not a sprint, and it's our first endurance race for DG Sport, and we need to improve to have a good car for the race.
I think at the beginning of this session, was the team manager asked to go to race control? Do you know why?
I don't know, because I was not here, and sorry, but I don't know. I need to ask my team manager.
We'll try and find out a bit later. obviously you've got a big event here this weekend, but you know you're a works team, really, aren't you?
I don't.
You're a Peugeot works team.
No, we are not a Peugeot works team. We have the help of Peugeot because we race also in the TCR Europe. And 1 year ago, we raced in the WTCR with Peugeot. We are also this weekend in Wales Rally in the WRC with 2 Citroën. And we have a good collaboration with PSA Group.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the works already. That's why I mentioned the works team. So we got that cleared up. That's great. And obviously the Wales Rally is a huge event as well. So a lot going on for you.
Yes, we like to race in rally, and this race will be like a rally with the rain.
Well, we've seen a few cars go off. It does look like there's a few. It does look like some people are rallying tonight just because of the weather.
Yes, because in the Wales it's the same conditions, and here we are ready to have a good race on the rain.
What's the feel? Have you talked to any of the drivers tonight that have been out on the circuit? Is there any information coming back from them?
Till now, I don't have the information because we start with the night practice, and we will have more information in a few minutes.
Okay, well, we'll catch up with you over the weekend.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
I think speculation about why the team manager was asked to go to race control. I think somebody tweeted earlier that
Right Turn Lover suggested that it was to do with a transponder issue.
Yes, James Muscat as well.
Oh, it was
Paul.
James, was it?
Yeah,
okay.
James Muscat. So maybe transponder issues, car out on track, but not being recognised by the timing.
Yeah. In answer to the question that Right Turn Lover posed, the number 54 car, right at the beginning of the session, Di did catch up with the Further Autosport QSR racing car. She spoke to John Miller, I think it was, and he reporting that they've got a sort of electrical glitch and one of those things where lots of alarms and warning bells were flashing on the dash, so they're changing various elements of the electrical system on the number 54 QSR Further Autosport car. That's why that car hasn't yet done any laps in this nighttime session, of which we've had over half an hour now, 2-hour session. So the 54 car is the only one that's not been seen, although it is worth just echoing the point there that Di was making. Teddy Claret at the wheel of the 308 Peugeot, he hasn't turned in any laps for getting on for 15 minutes now. So that car has been in the pits, but the 308 car only has 3 drivers to get through anyway. So they're the only 3-driver team in the lineup. Teddy Claret sharing with Julien Brichet and Aurélien Comte, both of whom are pro drivers, so will presumably be able to get on with the job of driving at night fairly quickly once the car has had its issues resolved. So the 308 car still showing as second in the times, 3 minutes 03.191. No further improvement for Pepe Oriola, although he has gone out again following his earlier pit stop. But he hasn't improved on his time that he set then. Getting close, he did a 3 minute 0.6 on his last lap, and so his best was a 2 minutes 59.3. So that lap that he just turned, 3 minutes 0.6, would have been the quickest had it not been for him setting a quicker lap earlier on.
Marcel Duc tweets in, I believe, Marcel, you are at the top of Raidillon. The wind is freshening up from the top of Raidillon towards Eau Rouge, and his radar tells him that it's going to stop raining in about an hour. Now that means that we may just get to see a little bit of dry running when we're just about to pack up. So I do hope so. It gives the teams a little bit of an idea of that transitional process of the track going from wet to dry, which undoubtedly we're going to see. Now, the live stream is in car with the number 85 VMAX Engineering. Ward Sluice is at the wheel, the Belgian driver, and we are into La Source, the right-hand hairpin. Iconic pictures from that area of this track. There's no doubting where you are when you see pictures of race cars going through La Source, down the hill, plunging down the hill, past the old pits now, and into what is perhaps arguably the most challenging piece of racetrack in the world. At the bottom at Eau Rouge, and then up the hill. You need steps to walk up it, that's how steep it is. Across the top, through the left-hand kink at Raidillon, all very important parts of this track, as the momentum you carry through that part across the top of Radillon, you hold all the way down the Kemmel Straight. Vitally important to keep that top speed at an absolute optimum. Looking for your braking point a little bit earlier because of the wet conditions. Into the Lacombe, it's a right-hander, followed immediately by a left, and then the next bit of this part of the Lacombe complex, through the right-hander, an acceleration zone in normal dry conditions, but in the wet, tippy-toe conditions it is. Down into the hairpin, the right-hander, and taking the wet line all the way around the outside, not hitting anywhere near the apex, into Speaker's Corner, as it's affectionately known, the left-hander. Now it's all important, car getting a little bit loose on Ward as he plunges downhill towards the daunting downhill Pouon. Now, TV does not give this part of the track any kind of, give us any kind of idea what it's really like. It is really steep entry into the first bit of the left-hander, and then it opens out, giving us a lovely acceleration zone through the second part of Pouon, and then now into Fagne or Piff Paff, depending on what iteration of naming of corners you like here. It's a right-hander followed immediately by a left, and then a short burst towards the right-hander at Stavelot. And this corner, all important, the right-hander at Stavelot, getting towards the final part of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Get on the power as early as you can, through Paul Frere, the right-hander, in the wet. It's not an acceleration zone in the wet, it's absolute tippy-toe through there. Now you've got the car out of the corner, now you can accelerate all the way towards the left-hander at Blanchemont and into what will be a optimum point of the track for an outbreak manoeuvre. It's a lift and a course through the left-hander at Blanchemont, now towards the slowest part of this Spa circuit. It's an absolute, almost stopping the car to turn right, then immediate left. It's called the bus stop chicane. That's because it used to be the shape of a bus stop. It isn't anymore. It absolutely slows everything down as you complete the lap across the line for the number 85 car. Let's zoom straight down to the pits for Diana.
Thank you, Joe. I'm with Brett Nile out of the number 9 GDL Team Australia Audi. Brett, you've just gone out for a few laps. Interesting conditions, I think you said.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Coming from Australia, I don't do a lot of wet racing. So I have managed to do a fair bit of racing here at Spa, but yeah, challenging in the rain.
What is it about this event, an endurance event like this, that makes you want to do it and come all the way from Australia to do it?
We supported the Creventic series for quite a few years with our own cars and lease cars. But what really attracted us to this event was being that it's TCR only. It's going to be a real challenge, and not having the big variance in speed between the cars.
What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge, or what did you see as being the biggest challenge when you got prepared for here?
Same as any race, just stay out of trouble and be there for the end.
And how would you describe a lap here in the dark?
I guess today wasn't so bad. There wasn't a huge amount of traffic. Like I said, just getting used to the conditions in the rain for me, yeah.
Well, they're always changeable, challenging, and with going into the dark and the wet as well. But I guess you're a driver, you know what to expect. You just got to have your focus and be clear on what you're doing on the circuit, and of course managing traffic. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. Comes with, like I said, I've done the series for quite a while, so quite experienced with night driving, and just, being aware of traffic and whoever's around.
Are you happy with the balance that you've achieved on the car so far, and are your other teammates all sort of quite comfortable?
We're just sort of hoping, I guess, that the weather conditions will change, so we haven't gone too far to a wet setup, but the car was quite comfortable in those conditions.
Pretty sturdy, these Audi cars, aren't they? Great to drive.
Yeah. First time in the Audi was yesterday. Previously, I've driven a Seat, but nice car to drive.
For the moment, Niall, thank you.
No worries, thank you.
Thank you, Di, and it really is fantastic to see a team making its way all the way from Australia. The GDL Team Australia car, their car number 9, the Audi RS3, Malcolm Nile, Brett Nile, Clint Harvey, Rory Pettinen and Darrell Clark from New Zealand. So that's not going to be eligible for the Nations Cup with a Finnish driver and a Kiwi in there, Paul.
No, although the team name does suggest it would be the GDL Team Australia. Interesting that the screen is showing me that that's Brett Nile at the wheel at the moment. So whether that was Malcolm that Di was talking to, or whether they've got the driver ID wrong, I'm not sure. But if it is the case that the driver ID is wrong, then so that was Brett Nile.
Yeah.
Tell Brett that they need to change the driver ID on the car, because we've got Brett Nile in the car according to the screen at the moment. This is in the number 9 car. Best time of that car so far, a 3 minutes 17.418.
It's just updated.
There we go then. Perfect. So yes,
stand them down.
Darrell Clark, it says now. So it's already happened. Apropos of that, whilst we were having the lap from Joey Bradley, or was it Ward Sloyce, Ward has come into the pits in the meantime. But whilst that was happening, Pierre-Yves Courtauld in the car number 46, the Burton Racing Peugeot, has gone second quickest. So the Peugeots, far from being overlooked, as the helpers are in TCR, looking very strong at the moment. Second and fourth, Pierre-Yves Courtauld, as I say, having done a time of 3 minutes 0.360, brings the gap first to second down to just over a second. 1.035 seconds is the gap between first and second. And in the number 1 car, Pepe Oriola has now got out and handed the number 101 Red Camel Jordans.nl car over to Rick Breukers.
Let's have a pop back down to the pits and see just what this weather's doing. It doesn't look like the weather is holding off at all, Diana. What's the Binksy's bobblehead update?
Bobble hat hasn't appeared yet. But the weather, I think the rain is not as heavy, but it's still coming down. I don't know if you can really see it from the pictures that you can see. I can feel it on my head and on my face. So it is definitely not as heavy as it was. So I think it is lightening up, but I think it'll be some time before it actually stops, if it does stop during the night session here.
Yeah, well, the forecast from Marcel Duc was that we're going to have probably about 25, 30 minutes when the rain does stop, but then you've got that time of the track drying, and so we might not see a fully dry track at all, or even a line.
I tell you what, Joe, if I were team manager, and you've been a team manager as well, you've done your night laps, you've got all your drivers qualified. Even if it starts to dry out, there is nothing to be gained by going out and doing more laps, apart from just the pride factor of being able to say, oh, we were quickest in night practice. But to be honest, I would say, look, if you've all done your night laps, if you're all comfortable in the car, unless somebody really wants to go out, leave them in the garage.
Paul, I remember having many a discussion with you about that very thing, and you were always an advocate of getting laps. And now, since you've been working for race teams lately, that attitude has changed, Trusses.
Yes and no. You have to listen to the as long as your drivers are comfortable in the car, I said. And as I say, if your driver is saying, oh, I'm still a bit uncomfortable, I don't like my way through Blanchimont, I can't pick out my line through Blanchimont, then by all means, particularly for the drivers who haven't been to Spa before, and there are quite a few of them, for those drivers who haven't been to the circuit before, then every lap is a learning process and is worth doing.
Paul, if I could just interject there, just to add to what you were saying, I think a lot of the teams may have heard your discussion, to be honest, because a lot of the garage doors are still halfway down, even though the cars are out on the track. A lot of the drivers are in the garages, sort of just casually making their way to go out on track. So I suspect that the team managers perhaps have made that decision that, you know, once they've got their relevant laps in, they're not going to take too many risks tonight, certainly with the weather. And actually, since I spoke to you a few minutes ago, it's lightened again slightly, but still coming down quite heavily at the end of the pit lane here, although the wind has dropped, so it's still drizzly. You know, it's that place where you just want it to be one or the other, and at the moment it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, it's very much wet weather tyres is the order of the day still. Temperatures, I think, when we started the session was 10 degrees out there, so it certainly isn't going to be very warm. However, we have had a further improvement. Pierre-Yves Courtal, second place, has improved his time. He is now also under 3 minutes on the lap time, 2 minutes 59.636 now for the Burton Racing Peugeot. So it's Pepe Oriola fastest in the 101 Red Camels Cupra with a 2 minutes 59.325. Then Pierre-Yves Courtal in the Burton Racing Peugeot 259.636. And that's an AM driver, Pierre-Yves Courtal. Third fastest is number 85, and that's time from Ward Sloyce, although Stephen Cho is now out in the VMAX Opel. So we've got Cupra first, Peugeot 308 second, Opel Astra third. And as I say, Stephen Cho having taken over that 85 car, but it was the time was set by Ward Sloyce, probably encouraged by Joe's description of his lap. Got his line absolutely right and set a faster time. His time 3 minutes 2.995. Now fourth fastest, but the car still in the pits is the 308 Peugeot. Teddy Claret having set the time, but only that driver having been out in it. And then fifth fastest is number 65, Douglas Koo, in the Viper Niza Racing Cupra with a 3 minutes 4.217.
Let's head down to Diana. Car 852 and the number 22 has the name Teamwork of Motorsport above the door. And Di is with the man whose name that is.
Yes, Teamwork Huff Motorsport. We know that name very well. An old friend, Rob, good to see you. A bit of a different guise for you here this weekend.
Yeah, very much so. First of all, thank you very much for the welcome. Long time since I've seen you. But yeah, obviously different role for me completely. Joint team owner of Teamwork Huff, and yeah, bringing 8 Chinese drivers and Hong Kong drivers who have done a bit of endurance racing in Creventic before. They did Dubai, half of them did Dubai, half of them more recently have done 24-hour Nürburgring, and they wanted to come and splash around Spa for the weekend. So yeah, it's a great opportunity for them. They've obviously looked after me very well in the past with my Macau exploits, and obviously racing in Chinese touring cars and doing a lot of work in China with race school and instructor school. Obviously made good friends, and we've got 4 drivers from Chinese touring cars, and then some other drivers who wanted to experience it. So yeah, completely different for me, but thoroughly enjoying it.
I was going to say, are you enjoying it? Clearly, yes, because you're smiling. But, I mean, you've got so much experience as a driver yourself, Rob. You had to start at the bottom and work your way up and work very hard to do that, have had success, you know, on the world platform. So all of that counts, doesn't it, when you come into management side, even though I know you're still driving and you've still got the whole coaching with the guys that are here. But it must be very satisfying to see all your hard work culminating and it's still going.
You know, the main thing for me is it's just a great pleasure to give back to motorsport. You know, motorsport's been great to me. I've made a very successful career out of it, and to be able to share that wealth of knowledge and experience that I've had over the last 20 years now is something that gives me, you know, great pleasure. And to see the guys enjoying themselves so much, to give them the experience that they've given me over in Asia, to be able to give that to them in, you know, my home country, not quite, but pretty close. You know, we did TCR UK at the beginning of the season with one of our drivers, Sonny, who's in the car this weekend with us as well. And of course, I've worked with some great team managers over the year and team principals. So yeah, I've probably learned a thing or two along the way. But you know, the main thing is when you've got great staff around you, when you've got a great team manager, when you've got great engineers and mechanics, makes my job as a team owner a lot easier, because everything sort of takes care of itself, as it were. But yeah, for me, it's very much looking after the drivers, trying to coach them, trying to help them along, give them my experiences as a knowledge of Spa, having done everything from historic MGBs to GT40s to World Touring Cars to TCR and GT3 as well. So yeah, it's just a case of getting them as comfortable as possible, confidence, which is not easy in these conditions at all. We've not had consistent conditions in any of the testing, so every lap for them is learning. And, you know, along with that, bedding brakes and everything else that goes with what's going to be, I think, a 23-hour race.
Well, as well as this position that you find yourself in, I guess, you know, the inevitable question is, which one do you prefer, driving or managing?
Very much driving still, of course. You know, this is like, you know, I want to say a toe in the water, but I think we're a bit deeper than toe in the water because we've got cars in Asia, we've got cars over in Europe, we've got cars in the UK. So, yeah, I think this is grown quite quick, you know, a bit quicker than we thought it would, which is great. But no, my focus is very much still on the driving, and obviously a weekend off for me. So, you know, I want to be here. I want to see how it's all going. I want to have an input into it, and I was hoping to stay dry, but that's not going to happen.
Well, of course, you know, it's a huge responsibility, isn't it? And as you say, you're putting something back which is very rewarding. But what's been the sort of biggest challenge that you faced that you thought, you know, I didn't realise that would be maybe as difficult as it maybe has been? Or have you just coped with the scenarios that have presented themselves?
I think one of the main things for me, I'm very lucky with my experiences in motorsport, and from working with a lot of different teams at very high levels, the main thing I learned was to put the right people in the right place, and I've met the right people along the way, and very luckily I've got quite a big phone book full of very good people that makes my job as having my name on the car a lot easier, shall we say. But for me, it's finding my feet. You know, I'm used to being told what to do as a driver, and then obviously once the helmet on, you do what you want to do. Of course, we all know that. But very much, you know, just trying to take a senior role, if you like, and just getting stuff done. You know, normally very privileged as a works driver for 15 years that everything's taken care of for me and has been done for me. So I literally turn up, someone hands me my helmet and my balaclavas and so on, and I get in the car and do what I need to do. Here, it's totally seeing it from the other side. But it's thoroughly enjoyable. You know, I'm here, I'm smiling, and I just hope the guys do well. I just want them to finish, stay out of trouble, and you know, I don't care where we come, just finish and have a good time. That's what we're here to do.
As you say, there's a number of drivers here that you're looking after and you're giving advice to. What are the main things that they are asking you to help them with? Because we can all, you know, be confident and you get behind the wheel, you do your stuff, but there are moments where you think, you know, I really need a bit of advice here and there. Are they good at asking for that advice?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I've worked with these guys for a long time. You know, like I said, we've got 4 guys out of Chinese touring cars who are at a very high level. You know, we've got, between Andy and Rainey, we've got, 5 Chinese touring car championships. Sonny and Alex in the other car, TCR China, which is very comparable to TCR Benelux, let's say, 2-driver stuff. And then Paul Poon, 7 times Macau champion, and yeah, you know, a long list of, so, you know, they know what they're doing. But the one thing I love about these guys is they don't stop asking questions. You know, they're not too proud to ask questions or anything. And I've always said to them, there's no such thing as a stupid question. You know, the stupid thing is to not ask. I can't guarantee that I know the answers, but I will work hard to find them if I don't know them. But a lot of it, you know, just being able to do the taxi rides with them yesterday, did, 3 or 4 laps with each of them. And, you know, you go through the dry lines, the wet lines, because that's stuff they're not going to know, because they've not been on this specific circuit. Every specific circuit has a dry line and a wet line. And just being able to help them with setup of the car and the feel of the car and what they should be looking to change with their engineers, with what they're feeling and the feedback they give. So it's quite involved, shall we say, but it's very rewarding, you know, and I enjoy doing it. And like I say, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
Well, obviously, you've got a lot of faith in these guys. You've brought them to one of the most iconic circuits, shall we say, and races that will be, I know it's the first TCR 500 here, but nevertheless, it will still be massively challenging, as we know the conditions here make it very tricky. But I guess that's what you want to do. You want to keep pushing yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You know, these guys, they've been coming over to Europe for a little while now, trying their hand at different tracks and at different levels of racing, and different categories, different cars. But yeah, it's just, you know, you see their face when they come back, even when it's wet. The first time they've gone through Eau Rouge in a TCR car, and that they know they've got 23 hours left to go, is it's brilliant. You know, it's lovely to see. And yeah, you know, a lot of them, not only they're very professional drivers, a lot of them are best friends. You know, we've got 4 in 852. Literally, they are best of friends, these guys, and they look after me on another level when I go over to Hong Kong and work with them on their cars. I set their cars up for Macau and stuff. So, yeah, to be able to give them that experience back, you know, at the famous Spa circuit and for the Spa 500 is a great opportunity. And, yeah, we just need to sort the weather out a little bit. But then, you know, it wouldn't be Spa without it, would it?
it would not. But we really appreciate you spending your time chatting to us now. No doubt we'll see you over the weekend. Now I've found you, you know where I'm going to be all weekend, don't you? But it'll be great to see how the guys get on and how they progress and how much they enjoy this fantastic event. Thanks for the moment, Rob.
You're welcome back anytime. Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Yes, thanks very much, Di. Rob's cars currently in 8th place. That's Paul Poon, about whom he was talking very highly. 3 minutes 8.966 for Paul Poon. That's in the 852 car. And the other Teamwork Huff Motorsport car, number 22, Yan Chuang, is 13th fastest at the moment, 3 minutes 14.492. But as Rob was saying there, the guy's really just keeping out of trouble so far.
Now, we're always, everyone who's listening and watching, I'm no doubt, are very familiar with multi-class racing. However, our 17 car field for the TCR SPA 500 are all TCR specification cars. However, we still have 3 classes, and we've been able to break our 17 car field up into 3 classes, Paul, by dint of drivers.
If you follow Blancpain racing, it's the same principle as happens in the Blancpain GT series. The cars are all the same, or at least all the same specification. They're all TCRs. We do have different types of car. We've got Cupras, we've got Peugeots, we've got Volkswagens, we've got an Opel, and the Audi RS3. So there is a good selection of different types of cars. But yeah, they are all to the same specification. So the way that Graventic has broken it up is the same way, as I say, that the Blancpain GT series does, into Pro, Pro-Am and Am. Within Pro, you are allowed a maximum of 2 Pro drivers. But the rest is free. And we've got 3 cars in the Pro class, being the 101 Red Camel Jordans.nl car, the 308 Peugeot, about which we are speaking and about which has now gone back out again. Julien Brichet has taken the 308 car out. That was in the pits for quite a long time. Did an outlap, came back in again, but is now out again, I'm pleased to say. So that's Julien Brichet at the wheel of 308, and he's just gone quicker, in fact, 3 minutes 02.730, so that's an improved time for the Peugeot. And then the other car in the Pro class is a Baz Kooten car. It's the Top Car Sport car, the number 131 car. As I say, the Baz Kooten has 3 cars here. Wouldn't be a race in Belgium without having lots of Baz Kooten cars. Baz running 3 cars, though. And the 131 car is one of his 2 Cupras. He's got 2 Cupras and an Audi RS3. And the 131 is shared by Mikkel Azkona, Antti Buri, Kari-Pekka Laaksonen, Julian Apostolos and Fabien Dantz. And as I say, that's the other car running in the Pro class. We've then got a Pro-Am class, which is a maximum of only 1 Pro driver, but you have to have a minimum of 1 Am driver. And the sum of the Am driver's driving time at the end of the race must reach 3 hours. Otherwise, you're not allowed to run in the Pro-Am class. The Pro driver as well is limited to a maximum of 10 hours altogether. So that's the Pro-Am class. So that's the complicated class, if you will. That's where you have to take care of driving time. In the Am category, it's very simple. It's just Am drivers. You're not allowed to have any semi-pros. You're not allowed to have any pro drivers. It's an Am driver lineup only in the Am class. And obviously, you're then free to have as many... They can drive however much they want. So if you have a team of Am drivers, they can all drive whenever they want to.
Well, we're coming up to half distance in this 2-hour night practice session, Paul. And I think it might be an idea to just get an idea of how the field is looking, and I'll give us a full rundown. Fastest in the session with a 2:59.3 is the number 101. That's the Red Camels Jordan Cupra. And in second place, car 46, is the Burton Racing Peugeot 3-Wit. Great to see a Peugeot up there at the important end of the field. Karen Burton currently at the wheel of that car. Car number 2 is in third place. Roy Edland currently in the pits with the number 2 Holden Garden Motorsport car. We saw that car just going through the job list of bedding in brakes and discs in readiness for the race weekend, which starts, of course, tomorrow. Car 308, we've got a Peugeot in the... 2 Peugeots, I should say, in the top 4. Car 308 is in 4th. The number 65 is in 6th, just going out of the pits now. That's the Viper Nisa Racing Cupra, and that's just been overtaken on the timing screen by the number 85, which is, of course, the VMAX Engineering entry, and it's that car's got Stephen Cho just taking over that car, and it's on an outlap, just gone to 5th. 6th is the 65, Dominic Ang on his outlap in 6th. 7th is the number 8, and that's the SE Motorsport Audi RS3. Stefan Perrin is just taking over that car, and it's great to see Stefan here at Spa after that bit of an accident he had in the pit lane. Paul, I know you were at Barcelona, more of that later. 8th is Antti Burri, currently at the wheel of the 131. And the 131 is the Top Car Sport with Bas Kuiten. That's down the field, a little bit further down the field than we expected, but it is a night practice session and it's not competitive. Car 852 is in 9th place, and we've just been talking to Rob Huff, team principal at Teamwork Huff Motorsport. That car in 9th place. Rounding off the top 10 is Yves Bessem in the number 175. That's the NKPP Racing. That's the bright yellow and black, and that's got a bit of a story to the livery on that number 175 car, which I'm sure Di will catch up with the team and find out the story behind that livery. In 11th place is the number 125. That's the Bas Kuiten Racing. So 3 Bas Kuiten entries. 125 is in 11th. In 12th place is the number 9 Clint Harvey driven car. That's the GDL Team Australia. We spoke to the Australian team earlier. And then car 110 is in 13th place. 110 is the Lestrup Racing Team Swedish driver lineup going for the Nations Cup representing Sweden. Car 33 is in 4th place with the Vimmerberg Motorsport Cupra. Car 22 is on an outlap. Yan Chuang is at the wheel of the number 22 in 15th, and that is the second of the Teamwork Huff Motorsport entries. Ryan Wong is in car 853 in 16th place, and at the bottom of the timing sheets in this night practice, having posted no time whatsoever, is the number 54. We spoke to John Miller earlier, and Dinah Binks, you may have an update as to exactly what's happening in the number 54 pit.
I have, Joe. I'm inside the garage because they actually had the garage doors shut, so I had to do a bit of creeping around the outside, shall we say, and come in the back door, and I'm here, 54. So obviously for the team, you're not out on track, Lance Birdstein, and I'm guessing as a driver that's where you'd rather be, but the team are working quite hard on the car at the moment. Can you just update us to what's happening?
Well, we thought you were going to be here interviewing us because we won practice, but apparently that's not happening.
We're giving the other teams a chance to get all their laps in, and we don't need laps to practice. That's what's going on.
But
that was John Miller, by the way, just so you know.
But we've had a little bit of an electrical gremlin that we were fighting. First, the lights weren't working. Got the lights working, power steering and the ABS went off. So working with Audi at the factory to try and diagnose the gremlin and get us out there. I think, we started to get comfortable this afternoon, and we'll experience the night firsthand and, a long stint and trying to stay positive, but obviously rather be out there.
I guess at the moment it's just time, isn't it? You're waiting for the gremlin to be fixed so that you can get out there on track.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is this race actually starts at 4 p.m. tomorrow, so we're going to get it collected for qualifying, which is still ahead of us, and look forward to the race. But sometimes this happens in endurance racing, just, like to avoid it this early on, but maybe all the bad luck's out of the way.
Obviously, you've not been able to put in any laps tonight, though, have you, in the dark? And I guess you have to do 2 to 3 laps each during this session? 2 laps?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, with the electrical gremlin, it's preventing us. So we won't get the night experience, and we all have a lot of night experience elsewhere, and headlights these days are good, and it should be fine.
Well, you definitely need them here. It's very, very dark on this circuit, and just looking at the activity around the car, it's sort of slowed down a bit, so I'm guessing you're not going to get out tonight, are you?
We're always hopeful, but until I get confirmation, I can't say that for sure. And if we can get a couple laps in, maybe one of us can relay to the other drivers what it was like. But again, we adapt quickly, and just hoping to get it ready for tomorrow.
Well, I hope you get that fixed. But I have to tell you, Joe and Paul, that I've been invited in to have sweeties, chocolate, coffee, that sort of stuff. So I'm going to be here for a little while if you want me.
And I bet they've got a heater in that tent. That they've got an awning up within the garage.
We got a heater.
We've got a heater as well.
Yeah,
Got
they've
everything
got
here. Got seats and everything.
huge compartment created by an Easy Up that is easily heated. Yeah, Di.
Yeah, Lance just said all he needs now is a working race car, and we'll be really happy.
Yes, yes, we support them on that. Now, Paul, the regulations state that all of your drivers have to do are obligated to complete 2 laps in this night's session. However, they're
Just
going to
write a
look
letter.
at.
Write a letter to the race director. You know, when you miss PE at school, and you do have to do PE. But if your mum writes a letter, then sometimes the head teacher will take pity on you.
I'm pretty sure. I know the Creventic race officials. We are not going to disqualify an entry on the grounds that we had an electrical gremlin that stopped them running in the night, and as we heard there, the driver lineup have all got nighttime experience, so it's not a new experience.
Yeah, no,
it's just force majeure. We can step around.
Yes, I mean, like all rules, it has its purposes, has its reasons, and the idea is for drivers who aren't used to the circuit, who aren't used to driving at night. Well, I mean, Romana Lagerman, rally driver, he's used to driving at night. Chris Allen, John Miller, Lance Bergstein, the other drivers have got night racing experience. So, as I say, I suspect they'll be granted some slack. But yeah, it's disappointing for them. However, being back at the times, you mentioned the time set by Roy Edlund there. That was an improvement, and he's now gone to a 3 minutes 1.896 to be third fastest, second of the AM teams. That's pretty impressive, actually. 2 AM teams are second and third. Burton Racing with their Peugeot, Karen Burton's time, and Roy Edlund having done a 3 minutes 1.896 to be third fastest. The number 85 car is fourth fastest, as it was when you did the rundown. So that's good. The 308. I don't know whether Di will be able to find anything out about. We did hear from DG Sport Competition earlier on, but Julien Brichet has been in and out of the pits more often than anybody else, I think. He took the car over, did a single lap, came back in again, went out again, did a 3 minutes 02 to actually improve the car's time, but then again brought the car straight back into the pits and has been back in again a couple of times since then. So Julien Brichet is back in the pits now, and I just wonder whether everything's okay with that car. But as I say, it's clearly a quick car. It's got some very quick drivers, but some question marks in my mind, at least, about that car. Code 60. This is almost certainly an exercise. In fact, the screen confirms that it is an exercise. Just over an hour, as Joe was saying a moment ago, into the session. And it is very important, as we were saying, to get familiar with procedures. And so we are going into a Code 60 exercise.
Now, for anybody listening or indeed viewing who is not familiar with Creventic organised race series, you might be wondering what we mean by Code 60. Well, the Code 60 is a purple flag waved with the big roundel with the number 60 on it. It means that the whole field, and that the flag is shown at all marshals points throughout the circuit. It's kind of like a full course virtual safety car where all the field has to slow down to 60 kilometers per hour. And the officials will police that by giving everybody a sector time, which has to equate to the speed of 60 kilometers per hour. It's a way of, it's a little bit different to deploying a safety car, where you then have the field bunch up behind the safety car and the track becoming sterile. We basically have everyone slow down to 60 kilometers an hour. We address whatever the situation is, a car abandoned, a car off, an incident, or whatever it might be. And then when the incident has been cleared, when the issue has been cleared, we then go to green, and everyone, wherever you are on the track, you will see the next marshal's post, the no sign of a purple flag, green flag's being waved, and then you can go back up to racing speed. And it works very well, in my opinion, Paul. It's one of the best solutions to dealing with issues on track.
Yeah, two key things. The first one you mentioned, well, you mentioned both, in fact. You don't have to pass a green flag. That's crucial. You only have to see a green flag. Normally, when you're in a yellow flag zone, you're not allowed to overtake because you're in a yellow flag zone. And only when you pass where the green flag is can you overtake. Same at the start of a race. You can only pass when you go past the green flag. With a code 60, when the code 60 ends, you only have to see the green flag and away you can go racing. So the idea is that as the code 60 is imposed, everybody slows down to 60 at the same time. And as it is removed, everybody speeds up again at the same time. Which brings me on to my second point, which is just as important. Unlike a lot of series that use virtual safety car or full course yellow, we don't go to safety car afterwards. We will never use a safety car in a Creventic race. So it is code 60 or nothing. And we are in a code 60 situation at the moment. And Diana Binks is down with that 308, about which I was worried.
Not quite, Paul. She's just making her way there. When Binks is there, she's going to shout up. I'll fade you up, Diana. Just jump in when you are at the 308 pit. Car in the pits, I can tell you, Paul. You kicked this inquiry off, didn't you? What was it that brought this car to your attention?
The fact that Julien Brichet has brought it in for 1, 2, 3, 4. This is his fourth pit stop in a row. And granted, the car only has 3 drivers, so they don't necessarily have to cycle through each of their 3 drivers kind of straight away on each successive stint. But as I say, Julien, I think if all was well with the car, he would have just stayed out there, done a few laps and brought the car back and said, no, everything's fine.
Hello, Paul.
Diana can now tell us, perhaps, more information. The car's on its way.
Outside because of the rain.
Oh, I see. Right, OK. Thank you. Well, I'm at the 308 Peugeot Sport Garage. The car was in. They changed drivers and they were just making some adjustments. They're telling me there's nothing major that's a problem. They just brought the car into the garage because of the rain.
They didn't want to get the car wet.
No, I've got to tell you though, as well, guys, that a lot of the garages here tonight, they've got the doors shut, so it's pitch black in the pit lane, which is not something I've experienced too often. There's a few lights here and there, you know, with the outdoor lights that some garages have, but because they've got a lot of the doors shut, it's made the sort of dynamics here really different, and I'm afraid the rain is just not letting up at all.
Now, what that will mean in the race, I'm not sure if we have the same rule here, and I've never really been in a situation, because we always race in warm climates, but during the race, Paul, the garages are going to have to remain open, aren't they, and only closed on retirement.
And crucially during qualifying as well. You're not even allowed to push the car into the garage during qualifying. So, yeah, this is kind of a bit of a luxury for them, that they can have these doors shut, which, as I say, seems to be making Diana's life a little bit more difficult. Yeah, so I suspect that Julien was still not happy with something with that 308 car. He hasn't, whoever's got in the car.
Telling me as much as they took the car into the garage. I'm at the number 46.
Di, is that in the 308 pit, is there things like virtually new brake pads lying about?
No, there's not actually.
Nothing. So, no telltale signs for you.
No, that's the thing. No telltale signs. Right. No, that's a good point.
It might be something as simple as just not quite having the lights pointing in the right direction. Yeah. You know, and he's been out for.
They were making some adjustments and tweaks, but they did definitely pull the car into the garage. Yeah. I'm at the number 46 Burton Racing Peugeot 308 TCR car. They've come in for a driver change, although I didn't see the driver jump out. I can see they're just making a few adjustments. That's a regular stop for this team, and they're about to just head back out onto track. So it's all looking quite calm here as the car leaves the pit lane, nearly leaves the pit lane, just about. He's got it into gear and off he goes back out onto the track. So a little bit more activity going on in the pit lane now, so I can see a bit more, which is good. So I'll update you as to what else I find.
We have gone back to green flag racing as well now. We should say, or green flag night practice, should just say that.
Good spot,
interestingly, the code 60 lasted for a little bit over 4.5 minutes, 4 minutes and 41 seconds to be precise. which, interestingly, isn't even a lap if you're going at 60 kilometers an hour. If you're going to go at 60 kilometers an hour for a whole lap, that's going to take you 7 minutes exactly, just about. So if you would have been out on the circuit, say, going through Eau Rouge as the code 60 came into force, you wouldn't have got back to start-finish by the time we went back to green flag racing. Now, if teams are considering coming into the pits during the race, if we go code 60, and it's only a 4-minute code 60 period, you're going to waste your time, because if you come into the pits during a code 60 period, you're only allowed to put 50 litres of fuel in the car. So, yes, you're getting the fuel, but all of a sudden everything goes green again, and you're going to lose out.
And one of our in-car cameras on the live stream was indeed the number 308, the DG Sport competition. And I did note that he was back out on track, Julian Briche at the wheel, and things looked to be, the car looked to be going at speed. It's very hard to judge even on the live stream, because this track is so dark, and it's very, very tricky out there. There's no sign of any let up on the weather, so the track has remained absolutely soaking wet. And of course, then it looks very much like the drivers are driving these cars very cautiously. They're offline most of the time through the turns, and their braking distances have tripled, if anything. Very, very tricky conditions here at Spa. But this is what they're going to be racing in. The forecast is exactly the same for the race. So this is good experience, good data being acquired here as to things like tyre wear, brake wear, and indeed the drivers are finding out a lot about this circuit as to just where the grip is on certain parts of the track.
And on the live stream, we're looking through the windscreen of that Peugeot 308, and you can see condensation is a bit of an issue. He's got the wipers going, that's wiping the outside, but there's condensation on the inside of the screen, which is kind of fogging up the visibility that our camera has. Quite whether the driver's visibility is any better, we don't quite know. But so maybe that was the issue, that why they kept on coming back into the pits. The screen is still telling me that Julien Brioche is behind the wheel of the... Sorry, Julien Briche is still behind the wheel of the 308 car. And Di told us that they changed the driver. So, again, that just may be an omission to switch the driver ID over on that car. The driver who hasn't yet driven it is Aurélien Comte. So let's assume that it's him behind the wheel now. Talking of driver changes, we've had a change of driver as well in the fastest car in this session. Pepe Oriola has now taken over the number 101 car, and that means that Red Camel have circled through all of their drivers, because it was Oriola who took the car out at the beginning of the session and was quickest. He then handed it over to Rick Breukers. Rick handed it over to Ivo, and because Tom Coronel's being a television star, he's not here to drive the car, so Pepe has got back in the car and is driving it at the moment. Not yet as quickly as he did earlier on in the session, which suggests that conditions are certainly not getting any better out there.
Question I'm not sure you know the answer to, Paul. I certainly don't. So it's just speculation, certainly from me. But John Mayer is asking this question. With only 17 cars in the field, why are we still using the pit lane all the way down past the endurance pits instead of
I can answer that. It's very easy, because Creventic refueling regulations.
Yeah, there you go.
The refueling station for Creventic is not in the pit lane. You don't refuel the cars in front of the boxes as you would, for example, in a World Endurance Championship race or in a Blancpain GT race. The refueling area is separate. Now, for example, in Dubai or in Barcelona, they have a refueling area. At Spa, what they do is they actually put the refueling pumps down at the bottom of the endurance pit lane. So, yes, you come into the Formula 1 pits, you go up to La Source, where the Formula 1 cars would rejoin the circuit, but then you don't go out onto the circuit again. You have to keep to the right, all at 40 kilometres an hour, because that's the speed limit in the pit lane for Creventic. And then you get down to the bottom of the endurance pits, you pull off to the right. You don't actually have to go in if you're familiar with the VW Fun Cup. That happens. You actually go round the bottom of the pits and up to the refueling station, the Total refueling station, which is in the paddock. Creventic doesn't do that because they bring their Panther fuels and the refueling station from Panther Fuels is at the bottom of the endurance pits. And so, yes, you do have, it's a kilometre long, the pit lane, once all that's taken into account. And all of that at 40 kilometres an hour, as I say, does mean that the pit lane is quite a long time. But that's why we use the whole of the pit lane. Diana.
I'm with the 853 Macau PS Racing team. Ryan Wong has just got out from behind the wheel. Ryan, you've just told me that your English is not great, but he sounded very good to me. Ryan, how was your laps here at Spa?
And this is the first time I tried the night day, and it's very dark outside, and also the rain is back, and I think my experience is I can't see anything, and it's very scared and outside. Yeah, but I just hope I can do my best in this race. Yeah, and I'm just coming back to check about my sector time. I said can be okay like that, yeah.
So it's just getting used to the dark and the car and the circuit and just being careful as much as you can for tonight.
Yeah, the careful thing is because we are endurance and I need to give the car my teammate. That's a big, how to say, okay.
So quite a bit of pressure, to make sure that you bring the car back for your teammates.
Not the pressure, as how to say, is just I need to do my job. Yeah, I need to be fast, but I need to be careful. So how to find the limit is the most important things. Yeah.
Well, you look like you're doing a very good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay.
Thank you, Di. Kelvin Wong there, out of the number 853, the Macau PS Racing.
No, I think it was Ryan Wong. Yes, it was Ryan Wong. It was the Wong caption.
I got the Wong.
Yes,
I got the Wong.
It was Ryan Wong then.
I wanted to say, Paul, he mentioned there finding the limit. I think he's going to find that the limit changes every lap, every corner.
Yeah, but no, I mean, great to hear from him, and certainly. Well done, Di, for getting to Ryan. I also loved his hat.
Well, his English is better than your.
It was fine. Julien Brichet seems to have got going pretty well now in the 308 car. He's still fourth quickest, but he's just done the fastest first sector of the whole session so far. Just under 40 minutes of this session still to go. But Julien Brichet in the 308 has done fastest sector 1. We're waiting for him to come through sector 2 at the moment. Sector 1, the sectors at Spa are great because the first sector is very, very quick. The second sector is all the fast corners. And then the third sector is all flat out through the left-handers at Blanchimont and so on. But as I say, Brichet then, very quick up, obviously quick through Radillon and along the Kemmel Straight, and has managed now to, well, he's in the middle of quite a bit of traffic actually in Sector 2, so we'll see how the rest of this lap transpires. But we've just had improvements from Julien Apothelos in the Baz Kooten Cupra. This is the 131 car. This is the pro car from Baz Kooten. This is the quick car, the one that possibly a dark horse, well, not a dark horse, but a strong tip for the race, the 131. So Julien Apothelos has just done his fastest lap, well, the car's fastest lap, 3 minutes 0.818. We've also had an improvement from Brichet. He's gone through now. He's improved as well, 3 minutes 0.826. And there was another improvement as well. Yes, Mathieu Detruy in the AC Motorsport Audi has just improved as well. So maybe the condition, can't say the conditions are improving because they just seem to be as wet as ever, but say maybe it's just a matter of people getting used to them. but a whole sequence of improvements. Jaap van Lagen is out now in the NKPP car, the yellow Peril car, 175, and Jaap van Lagen jumps up to 6th fastest. We've also had a new overall fastest time now, because Julien Brichet goes quickest with a 2 minutes 59.170. So, like it or not, whether conditions are improving, I don't know, but as I say, times are suddenly beginning to improve here, Joe.
That's interesting, Paul. It's hard for us to judge looking out of our window because it's completely dark. But that was the forecast to, with about an hour to go, about 30 minutes to go, the rain would begin to ease off. And if we're seeing that, we might just get an idea of the sort of lap times that we can achieve. More discs and pads being bedded in up and down the pit lane, this time on the 131. That's the Top Car Sport with Bas Kooten, a very well-drilled team. Bas, very experienced in long-distance racing with these TCR Cupras, and the team knowing exactly what sort of preparation that they need to go through. Let's have a dodge down to the pit lane, and you've got Antti Burry out of that car, I think it is.
Yes, he's just jumped out of the 131. Antti, looks like tricky conditions out there on track, but obviously your experience, you know what to do and how to handle these conditions. But is it a tough night?
Yeah, it's really dark out there, and with the spray, it makes it difficult.
Yeah, difficult to see, and there's a lot of drivers actually on this weekend that haven't been here in Spa before, so they're finding it quite interesting.
Yeah, but luckily we have this practice, so everybody gets to see the track before tomorrow.
Is that the objective of tonight, really? You guys are all very experienced. We know you know this series very well. A case of bedding in everything that you need to, getting the right info for all of you drivers ready for the race.
Yeah, that's the case. Just now we start to bed in brakes, but also Ats Gona is first time doing endurance, so we need to bed him as well.
What experience have you been giving him? What have you been telling him?
Quite a few things. We've had a good chat, so he's a nice guy.
Well, you know this circuit well. What are the main challenges here, certainly in the dark like this?
Yeah, mainly in the dark. Do not make any mistakes. Do not destroy the car. This will be the key.
You said that with very much conviction. I think I'm going to leave you at that point and let you carry on. I'll catch you over the weekend.
He's Finnish. He thrives in those conditions.
Just to clarify, had Antti immediately got out of the car and then you spoke to him?
Yes, okay. That's correct.
Right, okay, so the screen was telling us that it was Julian Apostolos who set the time. I did raise a slight eyebrow.
He had just jumped out because I watched him get out of the car.
Antti Burry, then the driver who set that improved time for the 131 car, moves it up to 4th place. Meanwhile, though, Oriol Comte has now taken over the 308 car and hasn't gone as quick. Yes, he has. He is the driver. Oriol Comte then has gone quicker than anybody in a 2:59.170. So 3 cars now under 3 minutes. 2 of them Peugeot 308s. The one that isn't a Peugeot 308 being the Cupra of the Red Camel Jordan's team. So fastest is Oriol Comte for DG Sport, 2:59.170. Second fastest Pepe Oriola for Red Camel's Cupra, 2:59.325. Third fastest, number 46, Carol Burton, 2:59.636. But no sooner has that happened than another flying Finn goes fastest. Pardon the too many Fs.
You did say fastest there,
fastest,
Paul.
yes. Too many
getting late.
Flying Finns going fastest. Rory Pentinen is the driver. In the GDL Team Australia, Audi RS3 goes quickest now in a 2:57.983. That's over a second quicker than anybody else has gone. So it does suggest that even if it's not much drier, it is a little drier. So Rory Pentinen now the fastest. So it's Audi fastest, second fastest Peugeot, third Cupra, 4th Peugeot, 5th another Cupra, and then the Holmgaard Motorsport Golf. It rounds out the top 6.
It's not a competitive session, just to remind everybody. This is all about just acclimatizing to the conditions of nighttime running. This is a 500 lap race. But we are going to see, it's a 500 lap or 23 hours, whichever comes first. And we are going to see the race run out to 23 hours. There's no doubt about it. even more so in wet conditions, but even in perfect conditions, Paul's analysis is that we wouldn't be anywhere near 500 laps. So this is effectively a very long distance race, and we are going to do, at this time of year, Paula, we're going to see more dark than we are light, I believe. I think we are, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we are.
As I say, we're past the equinox, and we've just lost an hour of darkness because it's only 23 hours. My question is, and I know Jim Briody isn't here, but if Jim Briody would be here, would this be his 100th 24-hour race?
Yes, that's correct, yes. But this is not a 24-hour race.
There you are.
So I know Jim will be out in the Court Oyster Marcars at Quarter for the 24 hours at Quarter.
Yeah, well, he's already had the sign built for his 100th.
Has he really?
24-hour
That's
race.
excellent. I love that.
Unfortunately, I've done 99, so this isn't my 24th either, my 100th either. Anyway, so Rory Penttinen then, 57.983. Back to the pits comes the 308 Peugeot for Oriol Comte, and Pepe Oriola is also in the pits with the Red Camels car. Karen Burton, having now set 4th fastest time, is back in the pits in the Burton Racing Peugeot. And Fabien Dant is now out at the wheel of the 131 car. So that's the Baz Kooten car, the top car sport car for Baz Kooten, now out in the hands of Fabien Dant. Then Rowan Shepherd is out now at the Home Guard Motorsport Golf. And then the fastest of the Pro-Am cars is Jaap van Lagen, who at one point sneaked up to 3rd fastest, I think it was, 3 minutes 1.943, but he's now dropped back to 7th fastest in the 175 car. So I think we can have an update from Diana. Di, what can you tell us?
No camera here at the moment, just changing the battery, but I'm at the Baz Kooten Racing 125 Audi. That's just had an incident on track. The car did hit the wall, Baz told me. So the car has arrived back into the pit lane. They've driven it straight into the garage. They're having a look underneath of the car at the moment. There doesn't look like any obvious damage as I look at the car. And
has it hit the wall coming into the pits, or has it hit the wall out on track?
I assumed it was out on track. Kevin Sy is right next to me, who was behind the wheel. Kevin, sorry to jump at you straight away, but what happened? We heard that you maybe touched the wall. We're not sure. Was that coming into the pits, or was that on track?
Yeah, no-name corner, a bit slippery, just went in backwards. Luckily to the tire wall, so it looks like there's no damage, so we can keep on practicing. So.
Yeah, there was a bit of frantic activity when you arrived in, but it doesn't look like there's any damage to the car, which is just leaving.
So it was luckily in the tire wall, and it was going straight back, so it was not too big of an impact. So just pit the car to check everything just in case, but yeah, looks good, looks fine.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Well, that's it, guys. There's no clear damage to the car. They all seem quite happy. I think that was quite a lucky one for them. But the car is definitely in one piece as they take that back out. They've changed driver in that car, obviously, as we just had a chat with Kevin, and they're going to be heading back out. They're telling the driver, I think, to put the lights on and just get it in the right position. They've sort of backed straight out into the pit lane, and they're now wiping the grass out of the front. So that. There isn't any problems there. They're turning it around now, getting it back in the right position so it can leave the pit lane, and it's sounding good, so off he goes.
They got away with that. They got away with that little off there, and that's quite lucky. It just shows how relatively big the runoff areas are here at Spa, but it also indicates to me, Paul, that how slowly the cars are going in relative terms to what they would be in the dry. Diana, you've got more?
I'm with Baz Kooten now. He was just having a look at the car going out. I think that was a bit of a lucky one.
Yeah, it was a lucky one. It was just a hit right from the back of the car in the tire wall, and it didn't bring any damage, luckily.
These conditions are always tricky, aren't they? And certainly at this point in the evening.
Yeah, it's really, really dark outside, and you can spin off quite easily. And I didn't speak long to the driver because first we want to repair the car. We want to check the car. There was a lot of grass in the front. And luckily there was no heavy damage on the car, so we can go to the end of the session. So all 4 drivers have to do the session to have at least some experience in the dark.
Well, we need it, don't we? Everyone needs it in this dark. I need it in that pit lane. It's so dark, I can't see where I'm going, but I'm glad everything's good, and you can now go and have a chat with Kevin.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Thank you, Di. We've got a car spinning off the track out on the circuit. We'll try and get the location. It's the Macau PS Racing car 853, and that's got Lewis Ng. How do you say it? His surname is NG. Ng. Lewis Ng has had a spin.
That's coming into the left-hander at Speaker's Corner, or No Name, or Liège, if you want to give it a title that it was given once.
He's resumed, though, Paul. He was at 90 degrees to his direction of travel, and it looks like he's recovered the car. He's back on the road. In fact, he's back moving and making his way around. That was a harmless spin. I'm not really sure why all of a sudden we're seeing cars spin off. We've had, I think, worse conditions than this. Maybe the track's just beginning to come, people just exploring the limits a bit more.
I think it's exactly that. We heard from Ryan Wong, didn't we, that it's all about getting to the limit and being safe. Well, as conditions do improve a little bit, so it's encouraging them perhaps just to push on. And Ryan there having, not only him having a harmless spin, but somebody else was having an off a little bit further round at the Stavelot corner, or Fang. But another driver who was able to recover and keep going.
I was just going to add, guys, that I know it's dark. We know it's dark. We know it's dark out on the track, and it's but a lot of the drivers that are coming in, and even the experienced drivers like Antti Berry, was saying how dark it really is. Now, is that anything to do with the fact that it's at this point in the year it's even darker, and the weather conditions with the low cloud are making it even a bit more difficult tonight? But I've heard it from quite a number of drivers, and maybe that's why people are spinning off, because the track conditions are very, very wet and slippery, and a few guys have gone off and come back on, so there's obviously a bit of dirt and stuff out there on the track surface.
Well, I mentioned this earlier. The reason we have nighttime sessions is not just to do with adjusting headlights. It's about the drivers reacclimatizing to the track which they think they know inside out. However, turn off the lights and your reference points disappear. So what do I mean by reference points? Well, you're heading in along the straight, you're looking towards where you brake, so you pick a reference point, a change of tarmac, the start of a curb, the end of a curb. You think of a reference point. You see that in the daylight. In the dark, that disappears. So you've got to pick out different kinds of points of reference to how you get around the track. And I think you're right, Di. It's not necessarily to do with the time of year, but usually in the summer with a clear sky, you get a bit of ambient light from the night sky. Certainly if you have a full moon, you'll get a moonlit sky, a moonlit night, and you can actually see. However, with low cloud, I don't know what you're giggling at, but I'm going to find out in a second.
Okay, right, you need to come back down here. I'm still
at
Bas Couten's garage. No, I don't know your name. What's your name?
Sorry?
What's your name?
Sven.
Stress?
No, Sven.
Sven,
Yeah,
Sven,
Sven.
Right. So you probably heard the giggling in the background, but Sven has been very busy cleaning the garage floor because it was wet, so he's
That's
having to
the
get
most
the
important
mud. The most important job.
Yeah, the most important job is cleaning the pet box.
Well, my OCD likes that because it's very, very clean, but everyone was massively impressed here. They were cheering when he finished cleaning up.
Yes. Everybody is only looking, and I'm only the guy that works.
We've seen that. It's on camera.
And the rest of that people.
We'll be having a word later.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I had a motto, Di. I had a motto to my lads when I ran teams. If you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean. It starts with the garage floor. Absolutely spot on. I always knew, you know, Bas Couten runs a really good operation. He's very heavily involved in all sorts of racing. He's got 4 cars in one of the support races. He's running 4 cars in the Fiesta support race. Paul.
New second fastest time. Fabien Dance, newly crowned European champion for the Creventic 24H series in 2019. Drivers champion, just done a 2:58.668 to go second fastest. He's within a second of the fastest time of this session. just echoing what Joe was saying a moment ago, it doesn't actually count, doesn't mean anything, but it does mean that the fastest of the pro cars is now Fabien Dance. He's gone faster not only than Pepe Oriola, but also than the DG Sport Peugeot, which has improved as well. That's at a 2:59.170. Teddy Claret is third fastest. So still Rory Penttinen is the overall fastest, and we've got just over 20 minutes of the session remaining.
GDL Team Australia to the top of the timing screen. Then that's an interesting point that you've made there, Paul, with regard to that car. It's the Audi RS3 of that team. DSG gearbox in that car. So great to see the field mixed up. Certainly came into this event as not one of the favourites, but it certainly, I think what the weather does, and the atrocious weather that we've had for tonight's practice session, is mix up the field. You're going to get different abilities coming to the fore with the weather experts, aren't you?
Yes, and of course Fabien extremely experienced with the car, and you know, he's been racing it all season, so he knows what he's doing. And it also accentuates the fact that there are some AMs that are quicker than other AMs. Rory Penttinen is an AM driver, and he is joined by a crew of AM drivers in the GDL Team Australia crew. Malcolm and Brett Nile, Clint Harvey, and the Kiwi, Darryl Clark. But because they're all AMs, they can all drive the car for whatever section they like. However, I don't know how much longer he's going to hold on to the fastest time, because Fabien Dance, having set second fastest time last time around, is about to come in to Blanchimont now. Fabien is in Blanchimont at the moment in car number 131, with all the potential to improve still further. He's just gone purple in sector 1, he's gone purple in sector 2, and we're waiting for Fabien to come across the line at the finish of the lap now. He's in the bus stop chicane, turns right, turns left, comes across the line at the end of his lap, and he goes quickest. 2:57.034, Fabien Dance. Baz Cooten Racing had a bit of a close call with the 125 car, but the 131, the top car sport, is the top car. It's lived up to its name.
So things beginning to change, certainly on the timing screen. Still rain falling, so no massive change of track condition. And just to give everyone an idea of tomorrow's programme, we come back to you in the morning at 11 a.m. Well, that'll be 10:50. The session starts at 11 a.m. local time here in Belgium, but we'll be going on air at 10:50, 10 minutes to 11 in the morning for a 30-minute qualifying session. We'll be running our programme, of course, over the 30 minutes. That's the session time. And, of course, all the runners, all 17 runners out there for the duration of the qualifying session. Fastest car to slowest car forming the grid. And after that, we'll be having a break and then be coming back to you for the start of the inaugural TCR SPA 500. And we'll be coming back to you at 3:25 tomorrow afternoon, local time. And that will be bringing you our usual grid rundown, our grid walk with this event. Diana Binks will be taking us over our runners on the grid. And right now, we've got an opportunity to talk to Diana again, who's got someone to talk to her.
A change here with the number 33. Peter Gross just jumped out of the Wimmer Werk Motorsport car. Challenging conditions we're hearing tonight out there on track.
Yeah, but it's getting much better now. But my first try was really wet. Now it's not dry, but it doesn't rain anymore. And the track is improving very much. You can see on the times, like not just mine, but everybody is going much faster now.
It's always difficult, isn't it, this circuit? It's different at certain parts, so you can never quite gauge.
We're all amateurs, so we're not really driving a lot. So now you have to adjust kind of quickly, and with these conditions, it's really difficult. But I've been here before a couple of times, so I know that it can change like within 10 minutes, and it's going to be like this, and then dry again. So, but that's, on the other hand, that's the appeal of this track. So
I'd have to disagree with you with that word, amateurs. I know it's pro-am and am and all the rest of it, but you certainly got your work cut out for you. And to get behind the wheel of a race car, certainly at a circuit like Spa, takes some guts. So that's not an amateur.
Thank you very much. We're trying.
A great team here. The guys have all been incredibly friendly. What is it about racing at the circuit that makes you want to keep doing it?
Well, first of all, it's like one of the last natural circuits, which is like in this area in the topography, and it's kind of a legendary circuit. And like the area is nice, the people are friendly. I've been here 10 times probably, and I'd always like to come back. It's so nice here. And
the element,
yes, challenging, yes.
But the element of competition, obviously, is very high.
Yes, on one hand, but with an endurance race, it's a little bit difficult. So you have plenty of time to drive. You can try things, and you get better and better over 24 hours. So I like that very much. It's like not like a sprint race is different, of course it is. I like it very much.
A long way to go into the weekend. So you're looking forward to everything this weekend will bring?
Absolutely, absolutely, really.
We wish you well.
Thank you very much. See you.
Thank you, Di. And this track, not just great to drive around, it's got a very rich history, hasn't it? I mean, the first race was held here in 1922. The first 24-hour race was held in 1924. And I know we know the average speed because we've been doing our research, but an average speed over 24 hours of 48.67 miles an hour. I think we're going to see a lot faster average over the course of the 500 laps that we're going to see over the weekend.
We'll wait and see.
We never know with this weather. Yeah, you might be right.
Conditions are going to turn out.
Might be right.
Certainly bearing in mind 1924 technology was slightly different, although the circuit was slightly different as well. Circuit was massively different in those days. Yes, I mean, the basic topography of which Peter Gross was talking there certainly does lend itself to some great driving. And good to hear from the Wimmer Werk driver, having his second turn behind the wheel, as he said, and 3 seconds a lap quicker that time than he was when he went out earlier on. Another driver to improve was... I've lost it now. It's get back to who it was. Fabian Dans, 257, we had that. The Jaap van Lagen car has improved, hasn't it? A 259.516. Jeremy Daniel, arguably one of the slower drivers in the Homeguard Motorsport car, number 2. He's just done the fastest lap in that car, so underlining what Peter Gross was saying to Di about conditions improving. Less than a quarter of an hour to go in the session still. The top 4 in the times, all in the pits at the moment. And the 5th fastest car, Jaap van Lagen, is the fastest man on the circuit at the moment. So possibility then for Jaap van Lagen to, dare I suggest, make it a Bas Koeten 1-2.
Now the 54 Audi, that's the car entered by the Further Autosport by QSR Racing entry, hasn't posted a competitive time. It's been in the pits with some electrical maladies. That car we've just seen go out of the pits on the track. It's come straight back in. I know Diana's down there about to get an update. Go ahead, Diana, what have you got?
It is still the same issue. They've got some electrical issues and glitches that they're looking at. As you can see, they've got the bonnet open. They're looking inside, so scratching their heads a little bit with, obviously, clearly frustration. They wanted to be out there on track, but they're doing their best to find out what's causing the issues. They don't know yet, so they can't tell me exactly what the problem is.
I mean, that's the trouble with electrical issues is you change, and in fact we heard from John Miller very early on in the session. He was the guy who took it on that one exploratory lap. But you change, and then it's still going wrong. And
Black Art, Paul, electrics.
They're horrible.
Black Art, it's a separate trade altogether to automotive engineering, automotive electronics.
They're going to end up, I suspect, having to change the whole wiring loom overnight if they're not careful on that car. It isn't Bas Koeten 1-2, and Jaap van Lagen goes to the top of the screen, 255.653, Joe. Definitely getting better conditions.
That track is coming back. The rain is reduced to ever so light rain. But what's happening is the cars are displacing the water on the racing line, and we're spreading the water, we're taking the water away from that racing line and exposing more grippier tarmac as that racing line dries out, and that's where we're seeing lap time come. 255.6 is 1.3 seconds quicker than the sister of Bas Koeten 131, Fabian Dans, in the pits in that car. And those two cars, I've got to say, 131, certainly you put that up there with the favourites, Paul, if not the favourite, didn't you?
The Fabian Dance car, purely because of the pro driver lineup. Nothing against Jaap van Lagen, but that car, the NKPP entered car, Guy Spessum and Harry Hilders, best will in the world, aren't going to be as quick as Christian Frankenhout and Jaap van Lagen will. And of course, the two AM drivers have to do at least 3 hours driving because it's a pro-AM entry, whereas in the 131 car, they don't have that constraint on them because the car is running in the pro class. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly very good indeed for the two Baz Kooten cars. Although, having said that, Teddy Claret is out again in the 308 Peugeot. We know that's a quick car. Teddy was quick early on in the session, although the quickest lap set by that car so far was Aurélien Comte. Was it? Actually, no, it wasn't. It was Teddy Claret in the most recent stint.
Well, we've just ticked by 10 minutes remaining in this session. We've, can you believe it? We've almost had 2 hours of racetrack action. So we're getting towards the end of the night practice, the 2-hour night practice, and that means that if any of our teams are left with things to do on their job list, things like bedding in brakes, just trying out a few tweaks, scrubbing in wet tyres, time's running out. And at the moment, I know this is not a competitive session. The lap times for this session don't go towards anything. It's just basically more of a reconnaissance session for nighttime conditions. And we've discussed earlier that the majority of this race is going to be in these dark conditions. I'm not sure if there's going to be any change in the forecast. This is Spa-Francorchamps, and more of an update coming from the pit lane. Di?
From the dark pit lane, I have to tell you, I don't think you can see me really, but not to worry. The 101 Red Camel, the garage door's shut, but everything's fine. They just don't want to run any more tyres tonight. They're pretty happy with the pace that they found in the car. I was concerned when I saw that the door had shut completely and they were all around the car, but they're not. They're just practicing their pit stops and having a bit of a debrief behind the door.
Crucial to practice those pit stops because one of the things that the Red Camel team are eager to do is to be very quick in the pits, and they were telling me earlier on that they really want to get those pit stops as quick as they possibly can, the driver changes as quick as they possibly can.
So Di might be able to add something to this. Di, when you say they're practicing their pit stops, are they practicing changing wheels and drivers, or what aspect of the pit stop?
No, at the moment just looks like drivers are getting in and out.
Right, they're practicing their driver change.
Yeah, I suspect there's not that much room really once you're inside the garage here and the door is shut.
Yeah, perhaps enough to practice that driver change aspect of the pit stop, because that's the thing. If anything, Paul, that takes up the time. And you mentioned earlier, are we going to see tyres double stinting? We're definitely going to see tyres double stinted.
If it's wet, then yes, because a wet weather tyre will last for 2 hours as long as it's properly wet.
How long, it's a question that you probably haven't had a chance to calculate yet, but how long do you think we're going to get out of a fuel stint? We can get about 1 hour and 20 in dry conditions.
Yeah, hour and a half in the wet. 3 hours double stint for a wet weather tyre.
We're only saving 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right, because you don't use the throttle as much in the wet. That's why we say that. That's why we say there's a difference between fuel consumption in the dry than in the wet.
It does depend a lot more on the driver. It's quite interesting. I mean, you've probably found this in your management of teams, but a driver can make a lot more difference in fuel consumption in the wet weather than he can in the dry weather, because some drivers will do exactly the same lap time, but they'll spend 2/3 of the lap spinning the wheels. And of course, if you're spinning the wheels, you're going nowhere and you're using fuel. Whereas if you're not spinning the wheels, if you're still doing the same lap time, you can save the fuel. And there are just different approaches to how the driver is driving the car. And he may be pushing on and trying as hard as he can. And then all of a sudden he finds an hour and 15 minutes have gone by and the fuel light's flashing. Whereas a calmer, slower to go faster or slower to go further approach may actually work out better for you. So that's one of those things, as I say, the driver himself can affect the fuel consumption much more in the wet than he will in the dry.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. It's all about modulating that throttle and being very gentle on and indeed off the throttle as well. And then the transition from throttle to brake, you don't want to upset the balance of the car too much. When you come off the throttle sharply, it puts the nose of the car down, the weight transference acts upon the dynamics of the car, and then you add a brake pedal into that, and you can really upset the balance. It's all about keeping the car as neutral as possible, and just while you're doing that, just with the steering wheel, just feeling the grip coming back to you through the steering mechanism on the car. And it's a front-wheel drive car, so there's a propensity to understeer from the very outset, and it's all about how you control that understeer. That's going to be key to how long those wet tyres last.
Top 8 cars now are all under 3 minutes. Took quite a long time to get anybody under 3 minutes, but as I say, the top 8 are now under 3 minutes. The slowest of those top 8 being the number 46 Burton Racing Peugeot, 2:59.636. But the difference between those top 8, under 4 seconds. So we were talking about it takes 2 to make a motor race. Well, in amongst that top 8, just 4 seconds separating them. And that's on a lap time of something approaching 3 minutes. 2:55 up to 2:59 is the top 8, and all of the top 8 include pros, pro-ams and am class cars. So I think we're going to have plenty to talk about, even though, as you've been saying, Joe, only 17 cars, plenty to talk about with very close battles in prospect in each of the classes. And then the Nations Cup as well, of course, which we'll be keeping an eye on as well over the course of the race. An improvement from Charles Espenlaub in their 85 VMAX car, the Opel Astra, the only Opel Astra in the field. Charles Espenlaub improving to a 2:57.628.
Paul, I think even with, all right, you know, we haven't got a huge field, 17 cars, all TCR specification. I think we're in store for a treat of a race, to be honest. We've got a lot of cars that are very close on performance. They're very close on performance or across the spectrum of the driver lineups, whether it's a full pro lineup or a full AM lineup. I think we're going to have some cracking class battles, if not overall, most definitely. And I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. Firstly, I'm interested to see what sort of conditions prevail for qualifying. I'm not bothered whether they're dry or whether they're wet. It's just as long as they're consistent. And it might be that we have a wet track going dry or vice versa, and that will take that session the full 30 minutes if we do.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it is only 30 minutes probably implies that conditions aren't going to change a huge amount. I mean, over the 2 hours of this session, yeah, I mean, we've had a 5-second improvement, roughly. If it's only a half-hour session, then I think you'd be lucky to get a second of an improvement, but it will be important to be out at the right time. And, you know, with the cars so closely matched, it's going to be interesting to see how easy it is to overtake in those early laps and how chaotic it turns out to be.
So with coming up to checkered flag time, not that far away, we're about 3 minutes away from seeing the checkered flag, bringing our night prep. In fact, 2 minutes, 20 seconds. I was a little bit out in my estimation there. And we'll be bringing the checkered flag out and calling our night practice and concluding that. At the moment, it's the number 175, one of the Baskooten entries. It's the NKPP Baskooten car that currently tops the timing streams, the 2:55.653, I should say.
Which, if the driver ID is correct, Christian Frankenhout hasn't yet driven. So whether Christian has other duties and has had to leave, I don't know. But, I mean, he's had enough experience to be granted allowance to start, even though he hasn't done his night laps. But he hasn't, according to our driver IDs, been out for the session.
Yeah, I'm surprised not to see Christian, and maybe that is a question for Di. Not necessarily tonight. We're going to ask, I'm sure we'll see Christian. I'm sure they're going to have Christian have a go at perhaps qualifying that car alongside Jaap van Lagen. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
so Christian was out earlier
today,
in the free practice session. Yeah, so he has driven the car and familiarised himself.
Very
with
experienced
it.
as well,
But,
Paul, in the dark air at Spa.
Yeah, I'd probably put my money on Jaap being marginally quicker than Christian in a straight fight.
Would you? I've got €10 in my wallet here. I'll take that bet.
No, I know. But I say it figuratively. I don't put money on motorsport; it spoils it. Yeah, well, I mean, there's one for us. Let's see if they let both of them out.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I know Christian is more of a rear-wheel drive GT proponent. I mean, he's a very familiar driver in the 24H series. The Hofer Mercedes is the car that we've seen him in for the past few seasons. So a new, albeit not massively new, he has driven front-wheel drive cars before, but maybe not most recently. We're getting towards only seconds now remaining, so there we are with only a few seconds remaining before we see the checkered flag, and we'll be giving you a full rundown of the field and where they've stood in the proceedings in night practice. Just to re-emphasise that this is not a competition, not a competitive session, I should say, and these lap times really stand for nothing other than bragging rights as to who was quickest in the night. The first competitive session we have for you tomorrow morning. We'll be back with you at 10:50 a.m. local time in Belgium, and the session will be at 11 to 11:30, and that will be a qualifying session to form the grid for the race start later on tomorrow afternoon. Checkered flag is indeed shown, and the quickest car is the yellow and black liveried car, and there is a story behind it. We'll maybe bring that to you tomorrow when you can see the car in all of its glory live in sound and vision on the live stream. But right now, that car is the...
I know the answer now.
Quickest car. You know the answer?
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter.
Ah, right, okay. Look, keep it a secret.
I'll just say that if you're desperate to find out, look on Twitter, you'll find it.
We're going to bring you the story of the livery tomorrow in sound and vision. Jaap van Lagen then. 2 minutes 55.6 is the quickest time of the night. The number 131 car, that's the top car sport with Bas Kevin. So it's a Bas Kooten 1-2 at the top of the timing screens. Fabian Dance is the driver associated with that car at the moment. That's a 2:57.034 for him. Great effort from the number 85. That's the VMAX Engineering Opel Astra. Charles Espenlaub at the wheel of that car. They are third with a 2:57.6. And we're about to go down the pits to hear from Diana. Are you at the number 175 then, KPP?
I am, yes, right. Absolutely. Jaap van Lagen's just jumped out of the car, so he's very kindly offered to chat to me straight away. Obviously, quickest of the night session tonight. How tricky were conditions out there?
I'm surprised because the car has a lot of oversteer, so I'm struggling to find the balance in the car, and so I'm really surprised that I'm the quickest, because I'm sure if we make some good changes on the car, we can do it even better.
It seemed as if we chatted to your teammates earlier, and everyone was saying they were sort of relatively happy, really, with the balance of the car. You're all a good, strong team here. That all helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But when you really attack, what I said, I have so much unbalanced car. So it's not easy to drive the car on the limit now. So if we get a lot of rain, with the 24-hour or 23 hours, we have to change something on the car. But I don't know with dry conditions. This is the first time that I drive this car. So, but big compliments to the team. The car is fantastic, but we can do it better for sure.
Well, we can always do things better, and clearly there's a long way to go in this race. As you say, it's the first time you've been in this car, so far it's a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, it's a big surprise for me, and P1 is the best place where you have to be, so yeah, big thanks to everyone, and hopefully we can do it in the 23 hours, in the 500 miles of Spa.
And a great start, thank you.
Thank you, you're welcome.
Thank you, Di, and a very well-drilled team there in the form of the Bas Kooten cars all with different liveries, all with different sponsors. Let's have a fresh look at the rundown at the head of the timing screens for the night practice then. The number 175 Cupra of NKPP Racing with Bas Kooten. It goes first, also first in the Pro-Am class of this TCR race. Second place, the 131 Top Car Sport with Bas Kooten goes second quickest, but first quickest in the Pro class of the event. The number 131 car in second. Number 85 VMAX Engineering, second in Pro-Am, third overall. GDL Team Australia, car 9, their Audi is fourth. Holmgard Motorsport, the Volkswagen Golf GTI car 2 is fifth. DG Sport Competition, car 308, the Peugeot 308 is in sixth. Red Camel Jordan's Cupra, car 101 is in seventh. Then in eighth place, we've got the second of our Peugeot 308s, car 46 of Burton Racing, they're in eighth. Wimmerwerk Motorsports Cupra, car 33 is in ninth. Viper Nisa Racing Cupra, car 65, rounds off the top 10. And then the next of our seven runners remaining, AC Motorsports Audi, car 8 is in 11th. Teamwork Huff Motorsport, I should say, car 852, they're in 12th. Bas Kooten Racing's Audi, problems for that car early on in the session with a little clip of the barrier after a bit of a spin, car 125 13th. The second of the Teamwork Huff Motorsport cars, 22, is in 14th. Lestrup Racing's, the Swedish Volkswagen Golf, car 110 is in 15th. The Macau PS Racing entry, car 853, is in 16th. And then problems for the Further Autosport by QSR Racing Audi, car 54, not posting the time, and that's in 17th place without posting a time in night practice. They've missed out completely. They'll be looking towards qualifying to get a run back out. So just looking back at what we've seen tonight, we are finished our 2-hour nighttime session. Appalling weather conditions, very typical of Spa-Francorchamps in October, so no surprise there, and the teams will have accrued very valuable data going into the weekend's race, because there's no doubt about it, the weather forecast is for changeable conditions, and we saw many cars half spinning, front wheel drive, being able to get the 852 Audi out of that difficult situation, for instance, as we see appalling conditions of visibility, windscreen steaming up, very hard to see. But again, the conditions are the same for everyone, and endurance racing is not easy. If it was easy, we'd all be doing it. That's what makes it so challenging. The rain began to ease off eventually after some very heavy showers. The track became very dark indeed, and the drivers and our teams got some good experience of what they're going to be up against for the majority of the race time for the 500 laps, or 23 hours. We know we're going to go to 23 hours. Some harmless spins, the track not really being forgiving in any way and catching you out if you push there ever so slightly. So, Paul, we look forward to qualifying. I'm sure you are eager to see that happen. Absolutely. And see just who we have in contention for at least grid honours, but then again, it is going to change, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think qualifying is always exciting, and you know, people make a special effort for qualifying. You know, it's a bit like getting dressed up in your Sunday best. It's all about how you can go in qualifying. But then you want to get a car that's going to be good for the race, and very interesting to hear from Jaap van Lagen saying that they can make their car an awful lot better. There's going to be a lot of discussion going on there to try and get things sorted at Bas Kooten, I'm quite sure.
A big thank you to Diana Bink. She's really been working very hard for her bread tonight in the conditions that we've seen outside. Di, I'm sure you'll be making your way back. My name's Joe Bradley. Big thank you to Paul Truswell. We'll see you tomorrow, everyone, for qualifying. This is when it starts getting serious. Back tomorrow for the rest of the TCR SPA 500.
Welcome to the Endurance Racing Series for GT and Touring cars, with the champion of the continent, European Championship, TCR SPA 500 and TCR Middle East. That's 12 races across 3 continents. The best endurance racing experience for everyone. Welcome to the world of endurance. This is endurance.